Good evening, one and all. I welcome you all to the valedictory session of the International Virtual Conference on New Facets of Consumer Protection, Challenges and Way Forward. With this, I would like to introduce our first chief guest, Sri P.K. Malhotra, retired Secretary, Ministry of Law and Justice. Sri P.K. Malhotra has more than 4 decades of experience in the field of law and has held many important assignments in the Government of India. He was the Secretary, Legal Affairs, as well as Legislative Department in the Ministry of Law and Justice, Government of India, Member, Law Commission of India, Presiding Officer and Member, Securities Appellate Tribunal, Chairman, Adjudicating Authority under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, and Judicial Member, Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. He was involved in the processing and finalizing many important legislations, including the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013, the Companies Act 2013, the Prohibition of Benami Property Transactions Act 1988, the Arbitration and Conciliation Amendment Act 2015, the Commercial Courts Act 2015, among the other acts. After demitting office as Law Secretary, Government of India, he has been practicing as an advocate. He had a brief stint as Secretary General, ICADR, New Delhi. He is also enrolled as an arbitrator and conciliator for central public sector undertakings, including ONGC, GAIL, NHPC, BHEL Bail, ECIL, Scope, ICA, NTPC, and New Delhi International Arbitration Center. He's handling a number of arbitration conciliation matters, including cases of large PSUs. He is Public Interest Director on the board of NCDEX Mumbai. He actively participates in public debates and is also a panelist on national news channels such as RSTV, APN, etc. for discussion on significant legal issues. I thank you, sir, for agreeing to address our audience in this international virtual conference. Second, I would like to introduce our next guest, Dr. S.M. Kantikar, who is also a member of NCDRC. Dr. S.M. Kantikar is a pathologist at VMGMC, Solapur, Maharashtra. He acquired PhD in law from NLSIU, Bangalore. He started his professional career in Shimoga from 1989 till 2013. In 2006, he joined as a founder teaching faculty of New Shimoga Institute of Medical Sciences, Government of Karnataka, and worked as an assistant associate professor. As a social worker, he started 2 voluntary blood banks, that is Red Cross Sanjeevani in 2006 and Rotary Midtown 1994 in Shimoga. He was honorable professor in law and medicine in CBR National Law College, Shimoga. With this, I welcome Dr. S.M. Kantikar and thank you, sir, for agreeing to address our audience. With this, I invite Professor Dr. Asokar Patil to give his welcome address and introduce and provide the report of the proceedings and placing of CLAP and LSIU resolution by the coordinator.
Thank you, Tasneem. Respected Sri P.K. Malhotra, former Secretary, Minister of Consumer Affairs, Minister of Law and Justice, Government of India. Respected S.M. Kantikar, Member, National Consumer Commission, and all the participants of this valedictory session. Just from morning, what we did, just I will give a bird's eye view and then I will come to the NLSIU declaration thing. So morning inauguration, Justice R.K. Agarwal, President National Consumer Commission, given an inaugural address, and then Rohit Kumar Singh, Secretary, Minister of Consumer Affairs, Government of India. He, as a chief guest, he delivered his address. And Sri Hem Kumar Pandey, former Secretary, Consumer Ministry, Government of India. he spoke on Consumer Protection Act as well as the book on consumer protection. And last one, the Consumer International Director General, Miss Helena Laurent, she spoke on how India's role in whole world, how it is working, all those things she mentioned. So all these experts in the inauguration, they launched consumer international journal on consumer law and practice, IJCLP, which is a Scopus indexed and UGC Care journal. So they launched a new website, even though this journal started in 2013, to help the authors more user friendly. For that purpose, independent website was launched today in the inaugural session. And at the same time, a new book also released on commentary on consumer law and Consumer Protection Act 2019, in which Justice Agarwal sir has written a forward letter, and P.K. Malhotra sir has written a message, and also Hem Pandey sir written a message in this book. So that book was also released in the morning session. And R.K. Agarwal, Rohit Kumar Singh, and also Hem Pandey sir discussed about Consumer Protection Act. And Rohit Kumar Singh, what are the new challenges they are facing, how Government of India is working on that, especially on right to repair, fake review, and many areas. And after that, we organized 6 parallel sessions. So already we have shared all those documents to all the people. So in parallel session number 1, the topic was consumer protection and the sale of goods and services through social media platform and fallback liability. So in this session 1, there were 2 keynote address. Dr. Ashish Srivatsava, he is a professor at Monarch University, Australia. And second keynote speaker, Dr. Babagoda Patil, Associate Professor, Salgaonkar Law College, Goa. And after that, in every parallel session, there are 2 chairpersons who headed the presentation, 4 members, 4 presenters in each parallel session. So they chaired that session presentation of those 4 people in each parallel session. So in this session 1, Dr. Pratima Narayan, advocate and mediator, Bangalore, and Ms. Shreya Shri, assistant professor, NLSIU. So they chaired this particular session. And second parallel session on the topic of consumer protection from fake reviews and e-commerce portals and other dark patterns. So in this session, 2 experts given a keynote address, Dr. Vijay Pratap Tiwari, professor at NLU Nagpur, and another professor, Dr. Dan Wee. She was a professor at Macau. So both of them delivered a keynote address. And later, 2 chairpersons headed the chair of presentation, Dr. Anita A. Patil and Avantik Tamta. So they headed the chaired the presentation. Then third parallel session on the topic recognition of right to repair as a consumer right and sustainable consumption. For this, 2 keynote speakers. One is Ms. Nidhi Khare, who is Additional Secretary, Minister of Consumer Affairs, Government of India, and Chief Commissioner. She is also heading role of Chief Commissioner, Central Consumer Protection Authority under the Consumer Protection Act 2019. And second keynote speaker, Professor Dr. C. Rajshekhar, former Dean Chairman, PG Department of Law, Karnataka University, Dharwad. And later presentation chaired by the Mr. Gigi Mohan, Associate Professor of Mars Gregorius College of Law, Thiruvananthapuram, and Ms. Sharda Shinde, Assistant Professor, National Law School, Bangalore. Then fourth one, the theme was consumer protection and imposing service charges at hotels and restaurants and other services. So this parallel session was, two people given a keynote address. One is Mr. Y.G. Muralidharan, and another expert is Dr. Sushila, professor at NLU, Delhi. And then presentation chaired by Mr. Mahesh Batsur, Ms. Sahana Ramesh. Both of them chaired that presentation. So fifth parallel session, assessment of consumer protection in India in par with international best practices. So in this session, Vagish Kumar Singh, advocate who is alumnus of National Law School, and another expert, Dr. Suresh Mishra, who worked a lot for consumer protection. He is from IIPA New Delhi. They delivered a keynote address. Then the presentation chaired by Ms. Neha Mishra, Associate Professor at Jindal Global Law School, and Mr. Parth Sharma, Assistant Professor, Symbiosis Law School, Nagpur. Then last session, other new facets of consumer protection. This was in this session, keynote speakers are Professor Dr. Keshav Rao, Vice Chancellor of National University of Study and Research in Law, Ranchi, and another keynote speaker, Professor Raju Khare from NLIU, Bhopal. And later presentations chaired by Mr. V. Suryanarayan Raju, Assistant Professor, Hidayatullah, National Law School, National Law University, Chhattisgarh, and Mr. Sanjay Utgi, Principal of Siddaramaya Law College, Chikballapur. So these are the 6 parallel sessions. Today, we completed successfully. And in all the parallel sessions, our law university students, they managed moderation as well as coordination. So every session is having one student who was a moderator, and 2 students were student coordinators, and also our technical people were there to assist if any technical glitches are there. So after taking all the sessions important points, just I'm referring the very important points which we discussed, and we call it as a NLSIU declaration. So just I will read those points what we have made, and we are submitting to Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Government of India, as well as even Consumer International, to consider these points for their future consideration in policy change or any other aspect. So the consumer protection is, as you know, is the heart of every consumer. We all have witnessed various new challenges in this dynamic digital world. We all are influencer, including consumer, and has to be very articulate to make the informed choice. Choice architecture can be a mechanism which can be adopted to protect the consumers and flourish sustainable consumption. Since today morning, we have been discussing on various new facets of consumer protection, challenges and way forward. The key among them are as follows. We do not live to buy, rather we buy to live. How in the era of technological advancement, consumers face challenges like fake reviews, owing to ignorance, lack of awareness, and illiteracy. India should take lead part in G20 conference, which will empower consumer movement in India as well as at the international level. Australia, there is a data protection mechanism, but there is no data protection law as such. In India, we have recognized the right to privacy in the Consumer Protection Act 2019 under the definition of unfair trade practices, but we need to bring it into actions. Interaction in a trustworthy environment is more important. Almost everyone reads reviews and rating, and we are influenced by that. If such high dependency is there on reviews, then it's possible that business manipulate reviews. So no direct law until now, creating a lot of difficulty. So that has to be looked into now. Ministry is working on it, and BIS is coming out with a policy on that, especially on fake review. And a regulation on online reviews is must in this present world. Selling counters are many, repair counters are very few. Repair counters being ineffective, crowded, tiresome. Additionally, no veracity of spare parts, legitimate or not. Things are planned in a manner that second-hand markets are shrunk, and every person feels the need to purchase a new product. The right to repair will produce the planned obsolescence and will help to reduce the use of plastics and e-waste. Sustainable consumerism reminds consumers about their duties more than their rights. Consumers should be conscious in deciding that in to be brought not negatively affect the environment while sustaining their needs, increasing resources effectively, quality of life for uh, people. So then next point is the issue of exorbitant service charges, the absence of voluntariness, payment of GST over the service charge, which shall be treated as unfair trade practice, and it shall be specifically mentioned if these charges are levied so that consumers can be make an informed choice. The objective of CCPA guidelines, that is to deal with issues associated with service charges. The consumer shall be explicitly asked if the service charge shall be added in the final bill. Pre-trial discovery procedures should be adopted as rightly included at US, UK regime, which will not only reduce the burden of case, but will ensure that the consumer is made aware of all the aspects of the litigation. We need to start encouraging proper exchange of documents and perusal of the same. It would lead to a much crystallized and simplified process for consumer litigation. Consumer Protection Act 2019 is a comprehensive legislation, and to make its object into reality, we need to implement to their entire extent. Along with the awareness of consumers, it is also necessary that officials who deal with these laws are empowered to deal with the changing dynamics of consumerism. With increasing the role of social media, redressal through electronic means, digital literacy of consumer law officials is a pertinent necessary. It's a necessity. We need futuristic and visionary law. Now it is a high time that we must move from Jago to beware sellers, because there is a huge problem of counterfeit and smuggled goods being sold. Government, academia, and organizations should come together in collaboration for betterment of consumers. We should build a network of a young consumer, including students, and encourage them to be consumer protection influential and achieve the goal. So these are the very important points we have selected and put it. And maybe within a week, we are revising it and submitting with the concrete proper proofs to the Government of India. So with this, I declare the NLSIO declaration points, and we will submit to the Government of India and Consumer International. With this, I conclude. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for such detailed summaries. With this, I would like to invite Shri P.K. Malhotra for his address. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Tasneem. Dr. S.M. Kantiko, Member, National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission, Professor Dr. Ashok R. Patel, and all other distinguished participants of this international virtual seminar being conducted by the National Law University of Bangalore. I'm really delighted that during this 6 sessions, technical sessions, the topic which are really relevant for the day have been discussed. I will not go into the technical aspects of it because they have been discussed in the technical sessions, and it being a valedictory session. I would just like to make few general observations. First, I would like to compliment Dr. Ashok R. Patel for bringing out this wonderful book, his commentary on Consumer Protection Act of 2019. I had an opportunity of going through some pages of it, and I think this is a very good contribution to the society, for the students, for law practitioners, for teachers, and anybody who is interested in consumer affairs. I think it gives a very good idea as to how the rights of the consumers are to be protected, what awareness and advocacy should be there, and how the adjudication mechanism for redressal of the consumer disputes should be implemented. So my compliment to Dr. Ashok Patil from bringing this book for the benefit of all those who are interested in the consumer movement. In addition, I find in the technical session, the topic of the international conference itself fascinated me because it talks about new facets of consumer protection, challenges and way forward. And I think this is what the consumer is looking for. The replacement of 1986 Act with the Act of 2019 itself shows that there were many challenges, and probably in this law, those changes which have been brought and the improvements which have been brought as compared to the Act of Consumer Protection Act of 1986 is a welcome step. I myself, when I was in the Ministry of Law and Justice, had an opportunity to see the draft Consumer Protection Act when it was being drafted, because as secretary, it was my duty to do that, and I did my job and had an opportunity to make presentation even before the Parliamentary Standing Committee. One advantage which I have seen is that this law was passed after due deliberation. Normally, it is said that the pre-legislative consultation process, which is must for bringing a good legislation, is not followed. But fortunately, we were lucky enough that in this particular law, which affects the whole population of the country, at least that process was followed. Not only that, there were expert committees which were involved in finalization of the project. And then the Standing Committee of the Parliament also examined the provision of this act. So therefore, we have got a very good act. And the new developments which have taken place, more particularly the development, the technology, and the e-commerce business, which were not covered under the earlier act, have been specifically covered under the new act. And during the deliberation, I understand many important points with regard to consumer interest, more particularly the e-commerce, and the Dr. Patil just now mentioned about the grievance redressal, the process of mediation, and the Central Consumer Protection Authority and the council which have been constituted under the act. They have been given this responsibility, and I think that's a very good development. Now, only problem is you have the legal framework. You know how it is to be implemented. But only problem which we face in our country is the implementation of the legislation. In case the law is not implemented the way the legislature has drafted it, the very objective of the law gets defeated. I think because most of the participants here are also students or practitioners of law, they may be remembering that in the constitutional debates, when the constitution was being adopted by our country, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar made a statement about the constitution that whatever constitution we might have drafted, that's not important. What is important is the people who are responsible for its implementation, how they interpret this constitution, and they interpret the constitution to achieve the objectives which are given in the preamble of the constitution. I think the same principle applies to all other law, including the law relating to consumer protection. Now, I'll give you one example. In the 1986 Act, my own practical experience shows probably the consumer dispute redressal was not given the kind of attention which was required to be given. Cases remained pending in the district forum, in the state commission, and even in the National Consumer Dispute Redressal Commission for a very long time, defeating the very objective of having a specialized body to deal with the disputes expeditiously. In case you are not doing it, because there were two main reasons. One was that the proper infrastructure which was to be provided by the authorities was not provided to these organizations. Secondly, there were delays in making appointment of the members and the chairman at the district level and at the state level. I think this is one area which still remains, and probably government at the state level as well as at the central level should give due attention to this particular aspect. Providing proper infrastructure to all these commissions is very important. In case the infrastructure is not there, the human resource is not there, the implementation of the law becomes very difficult. I remember, a person approached me who is a retired person, senior citizen, and there was a provision under the earlier act also that disputes raised by the senior citizen should be decided expeditiously. But in this particular case, I remember the state commission in Bombay took 7 years to dispose of the petition, and the petition was not disposed of on merit. It was said that the state commission doesn't have a power to dispose of this kind of disputes because it relates to a service matter. Now, if that kind of disposal was to be done, why it took state commissions 7 years to dispose of such a dispute, that too in respect of a senior citizen? So I think there are certain gray areas with regard to implementation, and probably unless we take care of all these aspects, the very objective of having a specialized legislation will be defeated. The second point which I want to make here is the Consumer Commission or the district forum which have been created, the way they function, unfortunately, we have adopted that they function in a way as they are courts. Mind it, these forums are not courts. Probably the kind of environment which should be created in this organization should be that the consumer sit in front of the authorities who are manning these organizations, and he should be able to convey his own feelings as to what deficiency in service or defects in the goods he has found, which he want to be rectified and which has not been done. Since it is not functioning in that fashion, and again, the kind of approach which is adopted by the courts is adopted by this commission and the forum, probably there was a necessity that the 1986 Act was deficient, and the 2019 Act made a provision for the Consumer Protection Organization Council as well as the authority. So I now personally feel at least these two additional organizations which have been constituted under the new Act will take care of this particular aspect, and this kind of delay will not take place. Other point which Dr. Patil made out, and I would like to highlight here, is with regard to e-commerce and the deficiency which with regard to the repair of the product. I think this is one area which has been neglected, for which consumer awareness and advocacy on the part of the Central Consumer Protection Authority as well as the Consumer Protection Council becomes very important. Law is in place, its implementation and awareness about the consumer rights become more important. And from that point of view, this conference, which has been international conference, which has been organized by Dr. Ashok Patil, as well as the National Law School, Bangalore, I think deserves to be applauded by one and all. I'm sure the kind of recommendations which have been made in the declaration will be taken care of by the government, and government will ensure that the law is implemented in the spirit in which it has been enacted by the parliament. Most of the time, what we find is that in the law itself, I think one fortunate event which I can again highlight here is with regard to the provision which are incorporated in the act and the provisions which are to be supplemented by the rules. I always believe that the law which is passed by the parliament, more particularly in case it is dealing with technical subjects like consumer affair or say for the income, cyber laws or the technology, probably they should provide the they should make the enabling provision, and after making enabling provision, it should be left to the experts to deal with the rules to be made to deal with a particular subject. More particularly, when we are talking about consumer affairs, e-commerce is an important subject. And in this particular area, we have done a good job. The government has done a good job leaving it to the government that to deal with problems like e-commerce, it will be done by the rule making, and which becomes much easier in administration as compared to making specific provisions in the act. So we can go on and on, but because it is only a valedictory session and we have time constraint also, keeping that in view, I again compliment the National Law University of India for organizing this international virtual conference. I also compliment Mr. Ashok Patil for bringing out a very good commentary on the new Consumer Protection Act and the kind of declaration which has been made by this organization, by this conference, after holding 6 technical sessions dealing with all important aspects of the consumer protection. I'm sure that the government will take note of it and will ensure that the ultimate man on the ground, the consumer, gets the benefit of this legislation, because this legislation is made for the consumer. It is only a tool to achieve an objective, and we are able to achieve that objective. Again, my compliments to all of you, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on this particular subject, which is important and very dear to me. Thank you very much. Over to you, Tasneem.
Thank you so much for your address, sir. With this, I would like to invite Dr. S.M. Kantikar, sir, for his address. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I am fortunate to see Mr. P.K. Malhotra, the former Secretary of Ministry of Law and Justice. Thank you, sir. Today it's my privilege to be present for this function today, and always I am happy to join the programs at our NLSIU, which is the institute where I have a lot of affection and which gave me a lot of things in law. Basically, I am a doctor, but legal aspects I got through NLSIU. My professor, guide, Dr. Ashok Patil, is there. Thank you, sir. Just Dr. Ashok Patil and P.K. Malhotra ji, they have made very easy, and they have elaborated entire happenings, what happened today. And all the sessions, the 6 technical sessions, are really excellent. I could not attend whole session, but part I have attended, and really very informative the conference was. This international conference it is virtually made every corner of the country to know about the new facets of consumer protection. The new act enacted, 2019 act enacted and came in force from July 20, 2020. And then it is very progressive, very dynamic act. And it is what I feel. I have compared, I have worked in 1986 act and also now working in the new act also. I'm watching the difference and lot of advantages in this new act, like e-filing, consumer can file complaint anywhere in the country. Then e-commerce, there are many provisions. Then the provision for CCPA is also there. So overall, this act has taken the task to improvise or strengthen the consumers. So in the morning, the inaugural address by our Honorable President of National Commission, Justice R.K. Agrawal sir, he has exhaustively covered about the newer aspects. What are the new provisions under this Act, 2019 Act? And the provisions like e-commerce and misleading advertisements, we need to address very seriously because day-to-day life, now today is the era of e-commerce only. Every transaction, everything is through internet and online only. So most of the consumers are misled due to the fake reviews, fake advertisements, and a lot of websites. And the lay person, even the educated also will get trapped and he will be cheated. So such e-commerce also, the provision has been made in this new act. The most important today's event, what I saw, that the release of the book. The book is really fantastic. It is a commentary on consumer protection. As you have pointed out, sir, it is the book helpful for all. The baseline consumer, the lawyers, the professionals, the manufacturers also, and the adjudicators also. So in single word, I will say it is an asset for the country. The book, it is necessary for all the consumer fora in the consumer commissions in this country, because the new act, the concept or the education of the new act is also necessary for the newly appointed members. The procedural aspects also that book has covered. I could see very few chapters, but I am sure my Professor Ashok Patil has brought all the things in this book. We have some consultation. Also, this is certainly an asset for each commission. I request the government to provide this book in each commission. I think they have provided. Nextly, today's emphasis was, most of the emphasis was on the e-commerce, because most of the speakers, they spoke on e-commerce. Then secondly, new thing what I saw, the repairs. Certainly each and every household come across the problem of repairs, the appliances or the electricity and everything. For simple, most of the times, for the simple, my example, the air conditioners. Air conditioners in Delhi, they service every time, when the summer starts. But that time, every time he says the gas is not there. You have to top up the gas or fill the gas and charge more than 2,000 rupees. How it is? We don't know whether he is telling or filling. So such accountability should be brought. And this is the newer concept about the repairs in this our Consumer Act is really helpful and boost the or strengthen the consumer activities. Then really I appreciate the Secretary of Consumer Affairs, Mr. Rohit Kumar Singh, his dynamism, because I saw him during the recent conference on World Consumer Day in March. His vision is really dynamic. He had implemented many things. Today also he quoted few examples which the ministry is taking up, like the service providers, uniform service providers like that water purifier. There should be there are a number of water purifiers, but the baseline consumers, in each and every house there is a water purifier, and why he has to sell every year 3,000 rupees? It is the monopoly or restrictive practice. This should be stopped, and certainly his vision is on that direction is exemplary. Then he also expressed about uniform mobile charging port. Yes, this is also, we never thought, but this is very, very attractive and very important thing. Then e-marketing and e-finance also. So overall, government is strengthening. What I felt, government is strengthening through the new act, a lot of give much more to the consumers. But one thing certainly I would like to mention, for the past decade, I saw the infrastructure, as everybody is pointing. Even former Law Secretary Malhotra is also pointed out that the improvisation is needed. The implementation of the legislation in spirit, in words and spirit, is very important. Legislation is there. We have seen for 3 decades, 1986 Act was not much made any emphasis on the infrastructure. The district forum, now I'm sure now the infrastructure is improved. Everywhere electronic, the computerization has been made. But as sir has pointed out, the appointments are still lacking. Whole-time appointments and the members. It is very important. This is the government should address this issue on priority, and that will certainly help the baseline consumers, and it will avoid certain delays which we are observing. The delays, not only the consumer forum is at fault, it is not delay due to consumer forum functioning, but it is also the practices. The consumer is not educated how to come to the consumer court. Most of the consumers, they are not willing to approach the courts also, consumer commissions, because of the time gap and the fees of advocate. They don't know whether he can represent. This education we need to impart the consumer how to file the consumers. Certainly, I think some programs should be initiated from the government to educate the consumers in this regard, how to file the consumer complaint, what are the necessity documents for filing the complaints. So lastly, lastly, I want to sum up. Certainly, there is a need to implement the legislation in spirit, and this time, after enactment of 2019 Act, the lot of provisions has made, and the ministry is very hardly working on this, and I'm sure we all consumers will get the fruits of new Consumer Protection Act, and the motto of strengthening the consumer movement as a Jago Grahak Jago is very, it will become true within short span of time. Thank you very much for inviting me, the Dr. Ashok Patil, my professor, the NLSI team, and all the participants here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your address, sir. With this, I would like to invite Ashokar Patil, sir, for an important announcement.
Thank you. Tasneem. Yeah, thank you, Tasneem. The results of this particular conference we are announcing on the website last week of this month. Today we are not announcing because of many other criterias we have to collect from all the parallel sessions. We don't have time to from parallel session to valedictory. So we want steadily we have to take collect data, and we are announcing last week of this month. And out of what is our plan, as already we have announced in the brochure at the beginning itself. So we select out of 400 and odd abstracts, we invited, asked around 50 abstracts persons to submit full paper. Out of 50, we selected 24. And out of 24, best papers around 10 to 12, we are publishing in the form of book. And already we got the ISBN number. The book title is Consumer Law and Practice, Contemporary Issues Way Forward. So we have already got the ISBN number. And this book will be released on December 24th this year, when the National Consumer Rights Day celebrated at New Delhi from our cabinet minister and secretary. They will release this book on 24th December. And also out of us, 24 top 3 papers will get a cash prize and also the certificates. And out of those top 3, top 1 first article will be selected, selected for next year IJCLP, International Journal on Consumer Law and Practice, Scopus Index Journal. So that will be published in next year journal. And that selected top 1 article will not be in the book, but it will be in the next year IJCLP journal. So all these publications happens with the consent of the author only. Without their consent, we are not publishing in book form, or we are not publishing in IJCLP journal. So we take your approval, consent, then only we do that. And these awards also, the cash prize and certificates are also top 3 will be given by our cabinet minister, consumer ministry, Honorable Piyush Goyal, and our Rohit Kumar Singh, secretary at New Delhi. So this is the plan of follow-up of this particular the announcement of the result, publication of the book, top 3 articles, top 3 papers announcement. So all those things happens within the last week of this month. So this is the announcement I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your announcement. Mr. Harry Gordon Selfridge, founder of luxury store that bears his name, summed up the importance of flawless service when he reportedly coined the phrase, "The customer is always right," or "the customer is the king in a market." And that too at the start of, or at the beginning of the 20th century. It has been more than 100 years now, and we are still to find that link where we can say that the customer is the king and consumer should be given the best of best priority. It gives me immense pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for the International Virtual Conference on new facets of consumer protection, challenges, and way forward. I truly and genuinely believe that this conference and the National Law School Declaration will be fruitful in the long run. I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to our chief guest, Sri P.K. Malhotra, for his address. Sir very rightly mentioned and addressed the contemporary challenges and the way forward, that too without even getting into the technicalities of the law. Thank you so much, sir. I would further like to extend my thanks and regards to S.M. Kantikar, sir, for highlighting the importance of the book Commentary on Consumer Protection Act 2019, authored by Professor Patil, the importance of the consumer protection, that too adding to the perspectives and how the same can be taken way forward. Thank you so much, sir. I would further like to extend my thanks to Justice Agarwal for inaugural address and for releasing the book title on Commentary on Consumer Protection Act 2019, authored by Professor Patil. I would like to extend my thanks and regards to Sri Rohit Kumar Singh for his insightful address and highlight major challenges with respect to the consumer protection. I would like to extend my vote of thanks to Sri Hem Kumar Pandey for his views on the book released by Justice Agarwal. I would like to extend my thanks to Helen Ma'am, Director General, Consumer International UK, for sending her video address, even though she was not able to join it virtually. I would like to extend thanks and regards to all the keynote speakers, Dr. Ashish Srivastav, Dr. Babu Gada Patil, Dr. Vijay Pratap Tiwari, Professor Dr. Dan Wei, Ms. Nidhi Khade, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Consumer Affairs, Government of India, Professor Dr. Sri Rajashekhar, Mr. Y.G. Murlidharan, Dr. Sushila, Vagish Kumar Singh, Dr. Suresh Mishra, Professor Keshav Rao, Professor Rajiv Khade, and all our chairperson who chaired the session, Dr. Pratima Narayan, Ms. Shreya Shri, Dr. Anita A. Patil, Mr. Avantik Tamta, Mr. Jijiman V.S., Ms. Sharada Shinde, Mr. Mahesh Betisur, Ms. Shahana Ramesh, Ms. Neha Mishra, and Mr. Parth Sharma, Mr. Surya Narayan Raju, and Mr. Sanjay Utagi for chairing the session. I would further like to extend my thanks to all the student coordinators and moderators without whom the success of this international virtual conference would not have been possible, because it was about all the technicalities. With this, I thank the IT department, Vinod sir and Satyanarayan sir, for being there for the entire day, managing all the technicalities. I would like to further thank Vice Chancellor, National Law School of India University, Dr. Sudhir Krishna Swamy, Registrar, National Law of India University, Dr. Nigam Nageli, Office Admin Komala Ma'am, and last but not the least, all the participants and the presenters who were here for the entire day for the valedictory and inaugural session, apart from the presentation that they had to do. With this, I would like to say one and all final thank you to each and everyone for making this International Virtual Conference on Consumer Protection Act, New Facets of Consumer Protection, Challenges and Way Forward 2019, big success. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Tasneem. In continuation of Tasneem's thanks, I also once again thank all the resource persons, all the panelists, all the chief guests, and also I thank Tasneem, who has done a lot of work for this conference from day one till today. So I thank her, and also my team, Tasneem, Akshay, Komala, Bhuneshwar, all together they worked, and technical support, because it's a virtual conference. Without a technical expert, we could not get the conference. So we know that Satyanarayana did very well coordination, and all the members of editors, all the members of IJCLP. I acted as a moderator, student coordinator, and observers. So all together, because of this team, we completed successfully this international conference. With this, we conclude valedictory session. Thank you very much, sir, once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kantikar. Nice.
Thank you, sir.
Nice
Can
meeting
I-
you virtually, of course, but maybe next time
I
we
will.
can meet in Delhi itself. Not a problem.
I'm
Thank you.
going on 24th.
Okay. No, I'll be going by month end. So
Okay.
maybe
Certainly we-
thereafter I'll drop in sometime whenever you find time for that. Right?
Sure.
Thank you.
are
Thank you very
welcome.
much.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, I have
Thank
an
you,
important
Dr.
announcement
Patel.
for all the
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I have an announcement for all the participants here, all the attendees. You are requested to fill the feedback form that has been provided. The link for the same has been provided in the webinar chat. Kindly fill in the form to receive your certificates within the timeline that has been mentioned before.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, once again.